Hi, this is Dustin. In this video, I will show proof for No More Genocides Part 5 with today's science and technology for real Star Trek with credible resources in the description. My background: I have 2 bachelor's degrees, 2 master's degrees, and I completed my PhD degree accepted dissertation. Instead, I wrote a book that is free on Amazon based on Yara Shahidi's hypothesis given in a speech at the Gleason Respect Awards on October 19, 2018. The hypothesis is that prevention will lead to equity and that equity will lead to equality. This is a nonprofit channel, and everything said on this channel has a reference in the description. If you have any questions, ask them in the comments. Okay, let's begin. In Star Trek First Contact, they said they got rid of all wars and genocides since you need wars to start genocides. Let's end genocides. Propaganda fuels anger, culture wars, and polarization, like here in the US. What propaganda does so well is that it dials down empathy to indifference, that it creates an us versus them mentality. Some businesses are promoting propaganda, like journalism companies and social media companies, as a business model, and they are profiting from their manipulation of misinformation to the public. Politicians are also making money from donations for their campaigns to be elected by pushing propaganda narratives from social media and journalism companies. All this propaganda for profit is used to influence people's opinion and control their behavior, while companies and politicians profit from their manipulation. An article from Boston University today said that international and domestic disinformation campaigns, which are worse than propaganda campaigns, are America's greatest national security threat. Disinformation like fake news and deep fakes, which is not as bad as propaganda, has caused billions of dollars in market losses and led to poor financial decisions. This doesn't include mom and pop businesses, which are the backbone to the U.S. economy. It takes trust to build a business with the public so they can see if your products or services are of quality and reliability. If propaganda and disinformation are bad for business, bad for politics, and it influences people and controls their behavior through polarization, like in the U.S., all while protected under the First Amendment, it makes no sense. What do? Here's my take to change the U.S. Supreme Court, and it is easy. Put 4 Democrats and 4 Republicans on the U.S. Supreme Court. Why? The best way government works is when politics is in the center, because it takes the best ideas from Democrats and Republicans and it applies it to the government. Next, have Democrats choose a Republican U.S. Supreme Court justice and have Republicans choose a Democrat U.S. Supreme Court justice. Why? This is because Republicans will pick a center-leaning Democrat instead of a far-left Democrat, and Democrats will pick a center-right Republican instead of a far-right Republican. Far-left Democrats and far-right Republicans are too extreme in their policies and fail more than succeed. With this, each justice will have 10-year terms on the bench to serve, then have to be off the bench for 10 years to be nominated again to serve on the bench again. Basically, the term is 10 years on, 10 years off, 10 years on, and so on. Why is this important? Typically, when a person is nominated for the U.S. Supreme Court, they want to fix a problem. This is a noble cause. The problem is that when judges stay in office too long, then they get used to the fancy office, the power, and the responsibility that comes with the job. If a judge stays in office too long, then that noble cause that got them there in the first place starts to wane, and they start to look after themselves more instead of the people they are trying to help. It doesn't happen to every judge, but it does happen a lot, and it's noticeable. This is why term limits will deal with this problem. In this way, other people can be nominated to the U.S. Supreme Court. With new people comes fresh ideas for new solutions to problems that can help the people in this country, like the U.S. Plus, after 10 years, Issues will change and some understandings will be different, like new science and technologies. People who want to be nominated again to the U.S. Supreme Court have to reinvent themselves, like with education and with social and political standing, in order to get into their old U.S. Supreme Court seat. In other words, with a gap of 10 years, all the judges' social, political connections will be gone, and they have to start all over in making friends again, so to speak, in order to get them nominated and then voted to get their job back. In this way, the U.S. Supreme Court judges will be all about the office and their noble cause and the people of the U.S. in order to fix things that go wrong in the U.S. instead of themselves being there for life. When a person is nominated, instead of being a judge of any kind, then there has to be transparent trail of the person's writings through the years. This way, when the judge is nominated, then Democrats to Republicans can see what type of person this is in the understandings on the issue. This would be like reading a person's public journal. It is the same thing. In this way, the Democrats or Republicans voting for this person would choose a center Republican or center Democrat instead of an extreme person. In this way, there will be no surprises, and then the judges will work to help America instead of harming it. The last thing is choosing the 9th person on the U.S. Supreme Court. This is beautiful. The 9th U.S. Supreme Court Justice is the 833 active federal judges. Why? Even with the best intentions and with the government finally working in a centralist way, so to speak, then there are still going to be issues that still come down to partisan beliefs or facts. In this case, it needs help coming to a decision. In this case, it takes a village to raise a child, or in this case, the United States. If 51% of the 833 judges decide a certain way, or roughly 425 federal judges, then this will be the 9th judge's decision. This is so brilliant, I cry a little. What does this all mean for propaganda and disinformation? When we have judges that are in the center politically, then this works best for the government, like the U.S., to counter disinformation and propaganda. Then social media, politicians, and businesses need to be labeled like if they are jokes, facts, propaganda, opinion, etc. We have labels on our food, medicine, on TV programming like TVY, Y7, TVG for our children and us. This is no different. People will not watch something that isn't true or unsafe. Businesses, politicians, social media are businesses and companies, and they have a responsibility to the public with their services and products, and this includes their disinformation or propaganda. We are consumers of their products and services, and we should know if they are safe for us and for our families. This is what the U.S. Supreme Court is not doing, and it has to change. I just have to say, if an individual wants to say or post racist remarks, then they have every right. This should be protected by the First Amendment. If a politician, which is a business, or a media company, which is a business too, puts out statements like the moon is made out of green cheese, and they can't prove it, then they should be fined for their deception. If they apologize and retract their statements, then they shouldn't be fined. But most don't and are never held accountable, and the deception continues. Some people believe them, like special needs people, or just people who are not educated to understand the difference. This is why if the U.S. Supreme Court is more center politically, then they will allow us or the government to label businesses to protect all of us. This is the end of part 5. Live long and prosper.